Hi everybody, this is Clarine from In Renee's room, and today we're going to make a fun fold birthday card. This is what it looks like. Fits in a regular sized envelope. I think it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and there's the top. Just fold it up, then you swing out the side, and there's a place for your sentiment, and then there's the back. Okay, well, let's get started. What we're going to do first is take a piece of cardstock. This is 8 1/2 by 11. We're going to use the whole thing, and we're going to score with your 11 inches across the top. We're going to score at 5 1/2, and then we'll rotate it and score at 4 1/4. So what we're really doing is just quartering this sheet of paper. Now here's a little diagram just to kind of clue you in on what we're doing. We're going to be cutting this whole left-hand section out. And then we're going to be angling the top right corner and then also the one on the left. So that'll give you an idea of what we're doing. And I'm going to suggest that you go ahead and cut this out with your scissors before you do any scoring, because it's easier, or burnishing, it's easier to cut this while it's flat. So we just cut out that whole left-hand section. Hang on to these little pieces that you're cutting off because we're going to use those. So I'm going to turn it around with the little corner up there. Get out my cutting board. And then we're going to cut from the left corner down to the right. And I'm just lining up those little from tip to tip. And Fiskars has this great little piece of metal, little metal wire in there, so you can line everything up just really perfect. And then on this lower left side, I'm doing the same thing, but we're going from right to left. Just like that. And again, hang on to those pieces. So there's your card. So this is the valley side that we just made. So I'm going to put this backwards. Go to the mountains. And just fold that down. And come back over here. There we go. And then you have the bases for your card. Now, we're going to be cutting 2 pieces of pattern paper. And I'm going to get a straight edge. I printed these up earlier, so there's my straight edge. And these are going to be, you're going to cut 2 of them, and they're going to be 4 inches by 5 1/4. So I'm going to get another straight edge here. And this is going to be 4 inches by 5 1/4. I'll put that right there. So there's one. And I will do the second one. As you can see, I made up some sentiments that are going to be used on the card, and I went ahead and cut those out earlier. So I've got mine set aside with the flowers ready to go. But for right now, we're just using this to get the pattern paper. Get my straight edges here. And again, that's going to be 4 inches by 5 1/4. Okay. Now my pattern doesn't really have a upside or downside, but I think it's important to go ahead and do this as if you did have an issue with direction on the pattern. What we're going to do is we're going to cut these diagonally, and the first one you're going to cut from the left corner down to the right. And again, I'm lining this up with that wire that's in my paper cutter. And then the second one, you're going to cut from the right down to the left. And you'll see why that's important in a little bit when we start pasting this together. And I'm not burnishing any color on my edges, mostly because my flowers, as you can see, have a little edge around them. And I didn't want to have to do all of my flowers, so I didn't do any of them. Anyway, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put these, we're going to dry fit everything first because we have to do a little bit of altering on these two plain corners that we cut off. So bring all this back in. Let me get this out of the way. We're through with that. Okay, so we're going to put this pattern up here. Whoops. Well, see why you have to have them cut in those two different directions. So this piece is going to go here. Now I wanted to have a little layer on top of mine. So one of those angles that you cut is going to be going up here as well. But of course it's the same size, so we have to cut the white one a little bit smaller. So I'm angling it down here at the corner and getting the little edge. And I know that this is 3/4 of an inch too long. So I'm going to just cut off 3/4 of an inch on that top part only. And I'll do that over here. And then it will line up and I can have my extra one on top. So there's my bottom layer. Here's going to be the base for my second layer. And I'm dry fitting everything before I glue it down, just to make sure everything lines up. And then one of those other angles, I have to do the same thing because I want it to be smaller. So I have to go down here and I put it how it's going to be lined up. And again, I have to cut off 3/4 of an inch. So I'll do that over here. Okay, so then I've got all 2 layers. And I'm going to glue those down. And then we're going to repeat that same thing on this other layer here. So let's do that. Now I'm using tacky glue to do this top part. And I think it works pretty well because it's thick. So I'll put that up here. And I'm doing it about 1/4 of an inch in, just so it looks equal all the way around. It's closer to 1/8, I'm sorry, not really 1/4. And then press that down so it all swishes that glue around. Then I've got my little angle that I cut. And that's going to go right here. And you can see it has a nice little edge. So I'll put some glue on here. And we'll put this down here now. And I'm holding it with my fingers before I press it all the way down, just to make sure that it's centered. Because you can squish it around a little bit because you have the glue there before it dries. And that looks good to me. So I'm going to push that down and then burnish it. And then we're going to put the top one on. And that's going to go right like that. Looking good. I'll put some glue back here. Now, of course, if you didn't want to put 2 layers, you can always make alterations depending on how you like it to look. This is a versatile little card. There's lots of things you can do with it. When we get all done, I have a couple cards that a friend of mine made, and I'll show you how she did hers a little bit different. So see how that's starting to take shape? Alright, so now we do the same thing on this other flap. I'm going to check that. Pretty sure it's going to be the same as the other one because they all have the same measurement. Oops, got some glue on there. So I'll put this guy down first. Center it. And it is important to use these little tools to get your glue down in a good place. You want it flat. You don't want lumps and bumps. And then this is the one that is going to have to be cut. So again, I'm lining it up with the angle up here, and I know that it's 3/4 of an inch here. So I'm going to cut that off. It's just the opposite of what you did on the top. And then that'll fit in there. Great. And remember, we're going to be putting flowers on here too, so if somehow your angles don't line up perfectly, I wouldn't worry too much about it because a lot of it gets covered up by our flowers and the little leaves and whatnot. So this goes on here. Oops. There we go. See how you can push that a little bit? And we've got a bunch of layers, so it's not going to be lumpy. And then the little one that goes on the top. That looks like a good edge, so I'm going to cut this 3/4 of an inch off here. Dry fit it. Looks good. Which is good because we don't want to start over again. Alright. I'll put that on here. Just holding that tip until I'm sure it's centered. Yep, looks good. Alright. Burnish that down. Okay. There we have our, pretty much our card. While that's kind of drying and setting up, before I put the flowers on, we want to work on the back here. Now for the back side, you need a contrasting color that's just a little bit smaller than your white background. So this contrasting one is going to be 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And that's going to go right on here. Now I'm not going to glue these down with tacky glue because it gets lumpy. So what I'm going to do is use my score tape. I would suggest that you switch also because sometimes, especially when you're putting on these bigger pieces, the glue dries and it gets a little lumpy. So I'm going to put this on here. Burnish that good so that you know the tape's going to stick. And then we'll just stick that up. And I'm going to center it in the center of that white, what's the inside of the card. There we go. Burnish it down. And then we're going to be using that last little piece that we had cut, that original square out, and that's going to go inside here. So the size of this is going to be 5 by 3 3/4. So we'll cut that over here. 5 by 3 3/4. And then we'll just dry fit that and see how it has a nice little edge around it. So I'll put this on here. This is also where you'll be able to write your sentiment. Let me just tear this off. And we'll center that in here. And then drop it down. Alrighty. Okay. Well, we're all through with the construction. You can see it's really starting to take good shape. We'll be putting a little signature thing on the back when we're done. But now we're going to put on the flowers. Now these little flowers that I selected come from a digital kit called Fred She Said, and they make the most wonderful flowers. So I cut them out with my scan and cut, and then I put stickles. This comes in a lot of different colors, but I just like the stardust because it looks like glitter. So you have to do this the day before because it really needs to set overnight. So I filled in the centers with stickle and then just kind of made some little out lines just to give it some sparkle. So we're going to start attaching these, and I'm going to do it with pop-ups. Now I also have some little green flowers. These were cut out from a die that I have, and I've had it for so long, I'm sorry, I don't know whose die it is. But just going to be kind of dry fitting these onto here where I think they might go. I'll put this guy up here, something along like that, and put a smaller one over here. And I want to save room for my happy birthday because I want to put that at the top. So I think I'm going to go ahead and put this down first, and I'm going to use stickles for that, just these little square ones. No, I think I'm going to use this. This is 3M tape, and the reason I'm going to switch is because I want it to, I don't want this to sag. I want this to be a solid sign up here. So I'm going to cut off enough of this, and this works just like pop-ups, but it's wider. So I'll cut some of that down. I'm going to stick this on the back just to kind of reinforce it so that it will be nice and square. Okay, so I'll put that up here, and I'll put it right about there. That looks good. See how nice and straight that makes it? All right, so then we're just going to start putting on our flowers. So this is a pretty good size, so I'm going to use a couple of the pop-ups on this. Put that on there. And I'll put part of that leaf underneath the happy birthday just to give it some dimension. It'll fit under there. No, guess I'll put it on top. It's already stuck down. All right. Now the leaves I'm going to put on with glue because I'm not going to use dimensionals on them. Oops, too much glue. So I'll just put this under here. There we go. And get my trusty bamboo stick. I always have that to kind of push stuff around, and your fingers kind of get too big to get in the way. Then I'm going to put a smaller flower over there, and I think one ought to hold it. I'll put that here. And kind of go over the edge. Just remember to stay within your boundary of your basic card too, because you want it to all fit in the package. Now I'm going to cut this in half because I want to put something underneath that birthday. And I have to cut a little bit more. And then that I'm going to glue down. I'll put that up there. There we go. Like that. I like the way that looks. Very good. I like the glitter too. The glitter looks good on there. All right, so I'm going to leave that one there. I'm going to put some more flowers down here. I'm going to have some flowers left over, so I'll have to make another card. All right, so put that in there and put some leaves underneath it. About like that. Put another one over here. Just tearing off the little stems. This over there. There we go. And then I'll put a couple of the smaller flowers in there. Put that one up there. And I'll put that guy right there. Okay, I like the looks of that. Looks good. And then I'm going to put one inside here just to kind of tie everything in, but I'm not going to use the pop-ups because it's inside. So I'll put some glue there. And I should have put this in there first. Let me see if I can squeeze it in there before I glued the flower. Yeah, I'll squeeze it in like that. There we go. And okay, leave that like that. Now I also have some little tiny bumblebees. Those cute. And I've got a couple sizes. So I'm going to put one of these guys out on the front. And I'm going to glue him up here on the flower. And part of his wing will be on the happy birthday, just to kind of tie stuff in. There we go. Yeah, I like that. And then I'll put the smaller one let's see. I'll put it right here on that flower. There we go. And then I got to put one on the inside too. And I'll put one of the bigger ones. I got two sizes. I'll put that over there. Looks like that. And then got another one here. I think I'll just float him around up above the flower. Oops. Like that. Oops. I think I want one more in there too. He looks a little lonesome all by himself there. Put that over here. And then that leaves plenty of room for you to put your sentiment around. All right, so there's our card. Happy birthday. And then this folds out. You write your sentiment there. And then to finish it off on the back, people who get cards like to know who they come from, especially if they're handmade. They really do like to know. I know I always do. So this is my little Designs by Clarine. And I'll just stick that on the back. And there you have it. Your fun fold happy birthday card. Okay. Thanks for stopping by. You take care.